This is Senator Warnock today, responding to reporter questions about the scandal surrounding Herschel Walker.
Your opponent, Herschel Walker, has denied the allegations against him in a story about him paying for an abortion in 2009 and denied that he also had a child with the woman who is in question here. Do you believe him?
I believe that my position on this has been consistent. It has not changed. That a patient's room is too narrow and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, in the United States government. I believe in women and in their right to make their own health care decisions. And I think the people of Georgia need a senator who will stand with women.
I believe in women and in their right to make their own health care decisions. Throughout that press conference, Senator Warnock repeatedly declined to attack his opponent for his apparent hypocrisy on the issue of abortion and instead focused like a laser on the stark legal realities facing Georgia women and Georgia voters generally. That kind of above-the-fray, relentlessly on-message discipline from Senator Warnock is exactly what voters have come to expect from him, because that is the kind of politician that Senator Raphael Warnock just is. Contrast that with his opponent, who spent the day fumbling his response to a growing scandal in interview after interview. Joining us now is Charles Blow, opinion columnist for The New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst. Charles, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
So what do you make of the study in these two campaigns? I mean, Warnock is a relentlessly disciplined politician, right, despite the fact that he's a relative newcomer. What do you think of his strategy for not engaging on this?
Well, I mean, as you pointed out, that is consistent for him. I think, Raphael Warnock, in addition to being a quality candidate, has had the great fortune of having horrible opponents. And he kind of lets them, collapse onto themselves. And I think that is what he is hoping will happen here. That's what his campaign is hoping will happen. Walker, on the other hand, has a machine that is just trying to ram through one of the most horrific, unqualified, horrible candidates ever to run for the Senate. And they are coming up against an electorate on the Republican side that is thirsty for that, because what happened in 2020 was earth-shattering in Georgia. This is not really even about Warnock and Walker. This is about who gets to make the choice. Mm-hmm. And Republicans, white people generally speaking, in Georgia had always been able to call the shots. Mm-hmm. And that election, led by black voters, other voters of color, they changed that dynamic, and that shocked everyone. And so this is just, a kind of tribal entrenchment. They don't really care very much about what Walker is being accused of. They don't care how good Warnock is. They care about whether or not they will be able to prove that they still get to call the shots.
What do you, you've written about this earlier this year in September. You wrote about the importance of the fact that Herschel Walker is a black man, the importance for Georgia Republicans that they have a black man that they can vote for. You say, Mr. Walker, I believe you when you say you're not that smart. You are the personification of a game being played by Georgia Republicans, a wager that any black Republican, in your case, an empty intellectual vessel, can beat the black Democrat, a man who is thoroughly qualified and utterly decent. Can you explain that more fully, why it matters that Herschel Walker
So there
is black?
are multiple levels of this race game being played with these two candidates. First, it was Donald Trump who chose him. Yeah. Donald Trump went into his nominating convention that summer, having spent 2 years on a war against NFL players, more specifically, but all players, generally speaking, who were being very vocal and saying, we are standing up for black lives.
Yeah.
And he found a black athlete that people loved who would say, he's not racist, and I know racism, and he's just saying respect the flag. And that's exactly what the speech that Herschel Walker gave at that convention. And Donald Trump never forgot that and wanted to pay him back. And so he handpicked Walker to run. That part of that calculation was that he was the anti-Colin Kaepernick, but part of it was also that, that there was a black guy who had won, and he was having to defend that seat, and I have a black guy who I like.
I have my black guy.
I have my black guy. And so he thrust him into that. No, they didn't really run a vigorous campaign against Walker in the primaries, so he coasts to a victory on the shoulders of Donald Trump. And now they are stuck in a situation where they have these two candidates. They have to vote. The tribalism is intense, so they have to vote the Republicans, and they also say to themselves, even though we supported all of these voter disenfranchisement laws that are aimed very specifically at black people, I'm voting for a black guy, so I cannot be that bad.
It's a way to reestablish their anti-racist bona fides while supporting someone who's utterly unqualified for office. It is also the question of what the ascension of Walker to the national stage does in terms of race. I do want to call your attention to Brittany Cooper, who is a professor at Rutgers and who's been tweeting on this. And she has some very strong words for Herschel Walker. She says, when I see the walking stereotype of black male mediocrity that is Herschel Walker, I am reminded that a significant swath of white folks need this to be who black people are, who black men are. Violent, idiotic, brute, immoral deadbeats. The GOP's support for Herschel Walker's candidacy is designed as a continual insult and assault on all who strive to be black and excellent, or hell, just black and decent.
That's Brittany. You carry up all of that. But I will say this, that, he is being used as a tool in that way. All those things are true, and he will do exactly what they say.
Right.
Now, if all those things were true and he were liberal, it's a no-go. If all those things, if he is Raphael Warnock, who is none of those things, excellent, he's a no-go. The fact that he will be kind of obedient and do as told makes all of this okay for them. And it does make a bit of a caricature of blackness. It is an insult to black competence, what they are doing in Georgia.
The hypocrisy, I will just leave it at the hypocrisy in this moment, between the Christianity, the absentee father, the message of redemption, the lies. We're in one hell of a moment. Charles Blow, opinion columnist for the New York Times. It's great to see you. Thanks for your thoughts tonight, Charles.
Thank you so much.